How did the Warner siblings go from annoying their co-stars to saving mythical creatures from the Great Flood?
You guys need a ride?
Well, we're about to find out. Sit down with your dinner trays and teleport back to the 90s. Because we're really throwing it back with the Animaniacs. Before we get started, let's meet the main characters. First up, we have Yako, the oldest Warner sibling and also the one who takes charge in most of their skits. He's zany, assertive, and most importantly, an interesting role model for the other two kids to look up to. Next, we have Wakko, the middle sibling and comedic relief of the trio. He's responsible for doing the most physical activity as his jokes often involve pain or sporadic movements. And last but not least, out of the main characters we have Princess Angelina Contessa Luisa Francesca Banana Fana Bobesca III, or Dot for short. She's the cutest creature in all of the land and the one with the most sass. She plays her sister's role well, following in her brother's footsteps when it comes to jokes and managing her emotions effectively. Lastly, we've of course got Pinky in the brain. Pinky is a slender, tall rat with a questionable amount of brain cells. He's the yin to Brain's yang and also the dumbest character in all of the series. The brain is the brains of their little operation. Every night the two try to take over the world, but let's just say they're rarely successful in their endeavors. And with that, we're ready to get started. Our first episode, Desanitized, begins with an explanation on how exactly the Animaniacs came to be. Essentially, in the 1930s, the Warner production team came up with the two Warner brothers, Yako and Wakko, and their sister, Dot. It was only until after creating them that they realized just how badly they would behave. The Warners decided to lock away all of their tapes and lock the three siblings in the Warner Tower ever since, denying any knowledge of the three of them if anyone dares to ask about the incident. This entire show begins after the Warners escape their imprisonment, proceeding to wreak havoc on Hollywood.
Trio ran amok throughout the studio until their capture.
This is when Dr. Scratch and Sniff comes in. Famously, the psychiatrist on deck in Hollywood for all the celebrities' needs, he is tasked with counseling the Animaniacs to get them into shape if they're going to be out and about. Unfortunately for Dr. Scratch and Sniff, they're anything but easy to manage. They end up causing him to rip out all of his hair in the first episode. Yeah, I think you can see where this is going. The last segment of the first episode consists of a Goodnight Moon parody, a famous childhood story spoof.
I'm Yako.
I'm Wakko.
And I'm cute.
A dog and a cat.
Cat? Where's a cat?
It's here that we're introduced to some later important side characters such as the Goodfeathers, a group of three birds that appear in many side songs and subplots. And we are also introduced to the Brain and Pinky, who seem to already be failing in their evil schemes. Our next episode starts with Yako's World. If you've ever been taught a song to sing in all different areas of the world, this is more likely than not the jingle you were taught. I mean, who could forget this iconic tune?
Mongolia, Laos, and Tibet, Indonesia, the Philippine Islands, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, New Guinea, Sumatra, New Zealand, and Borneo, and Vietnam.
Moving forward for that, the last segment of this episode features the first main Brain and Pinky segment. Brain is pondering how he can get more money for the evil gadgets while Pinky watches TV. When he gets a brilliant idea, he'll just go on Jeopardy to win all of the grand prizes. Brain, along with the help of Pinky, creates a human robot disguise that Brain is able to operate. He goes on the show and does wonderfully. He ends up racking up about 45,000 buckaroos, but it all goes in the garbage when he's coincidentally asked about a famous cartoon's catchphrase. The episode ends with Pinky trying to cheer Brain up by offering other shows that he could win money from, but Brain is too tired and decides to just go back to bed instead, failing his day miserably. Hollywood's in for a treat in this next episode, Taming the Screwy. An investor has put forth an offer of $1 billion as long as their fancy dinner goes as planned. And the most unsuspecting guests are invited. You guessed it, the Warners. The big chairman of Hollywood puts Dr. Scratch and Sniff in charge of them yet again, asking him to train the trio to have proper manners, dress well, and be on their best behavior for the event.
Trying is not good enough, Scratch and Sniff.
Do it!
A now completely bald Scratch and Sniff explains the situation to the children. They only agree to the terms as they're expecting a party, not quite sure what they're getting themselves into. For an entire day, Scratch and Sniff attempts to teach the three how to behave. But almost nothing is going according to plan, and it doesn't make it any better when he tries to get the Hollywood nurse to help him. She ends up just distracting Wakko and Yako more. It's an ongoing bit, but the two boys are in love with her. While the doctor's attempts seem to be futile, the three Warners still make a grand appearance at the dinner, shocking most people with their politeness. Wakko is sporting a pirate costume for some reason, while Dot and Yako are dressed more decently, but all three of them are ready to show their faces and have a good time. They're introduced to the investors, who are immediately impressed with them. The investors are Japanese, but Yako is somehow also fluent in Japanese, so he's the only one who's able to make a proper impression on them, and he makes quite a good one. Before the kids can take their seats and eat with the rest of the members at dinner, the chairman has Scratch and Sniff immediately escort them out for the night, wanting them to be sent back to their water tower. The Warners are confused as they've acted so well thus far, but the chairman insists that he doesn't want any funny business to occur and is happy that the three managed to be civil for even a few minutes, let alone the entire night of the party. The three aren't having it as they've held up their end of the deal. The Animaniacs head back to the party and live up to their namesake, making a complete mess and acting like fools for the rest of the night.
But I got better.
They're so fast with their destruction that nobody can stop them, not even a frantic chairman with $1 billion on the line.
The Warners? Where's Scratch and Sniff?
I don't want to drive the Batmobile. I just want to sit in it.
The kids are eventually rounded up, and when the investors ask who's responsible for the mayhem, the chairman has no remorse, blaming it on the Warners. The investors express how impressed they are and grant the Warners the check of $1 billion, claiming that the three of them put on quite an amazing party for their arrival. Much to the shock of the chairman, the episode ends with the siblings running away with the money, chased closely by the chairman. Another mini segment of the show features Katie Kaboom Boom, which is also the title of our next episode. Katie is a regular teenage girl, but whenever she gets upset, she ends up blowing up. The segment begins with Katie telling her parents that she'll be bringing someone home today, a boy that she's been talking to named CB. Her little brother tells his parents that the dude is a chicken. Her parents, assuming that her little brother is referencing his football skills and calling him a coward, do not worry about who this CB person is and assume all will be well. Until he walks into the house and is, in fact, a literal giant chicken.
Be right back.
Katie's parents timidly ask her to come sit with them while they lay the news on her that her boyfriend is a chicken, but this enrages her. Katie turns into a huge, growling monster. During her tantrum, the hot steam coming off her breath blows the chicken's clothes off, revealing without a doubt that her new boyfriend is truly a chicken. This is what causes an iconic Katie catastrophe. Screaming about how he never told her that he was a chicken, she completely explodes, ruining her house in the process.
You really are a chicken. Why didn't you tell me?
What the?
Upon waking up from her daze as a normal girl again, Katie explains to her parents that she and CB broke up. But she seems to have no processing of her ruined house or memory of turning into a freak of nature. The Animaniacs show who's boss in this next episode, Mobster Mash. The three siblings are out to lunch at a local Italian restaurant when suddenly three large, menacing-looking men come in, representing a mob gang. The leader, who goes by the Godfather, marches up to the kids as they're in his usual seat. He orders them out of the restaurant, but the Warners refuse. And of course, they begin stirring up trouble. Because he goes by the name The Godfather, they begin calling him Papa and acting as though he's their real father. Fuming, the Godfather orders his men to kick them out of the building, which they do.
The Godfather.
Can we call you Dadoo?
You will call me the Godfather.
But 2 seconds later, Yako comes out of the kitchen posing as a server at the restaurant. Infuriated at their presence, the Godfather attempts to kick the kids out several more times. But nothing works, and the more he fights them, the more they fight back, making the Godfather deal with more intense shenanigans as the day goes by. Finally, after being drowned in a room full of spaghetti noodles, the mob boss begs for a deal to make the insanity stop. The show then cuts to the men singing for the Warners as they peacefully eat their spaghetti, and the Godfather serving them their different courses. Our grand finale of Season 1, 65th Anniversary Special, commemorates the Warners with what appears to be an award show spoof. But instead of awards being presented, it's all about the creation and dealings of the Warner siblings. Coincidentally, while it's supposed to be a show showing the Warners how much they mean to Hollywood, the kids are incredibly bored and would rather not be there. And the people on stage seem less than thrilled to talk about the trio. The host of the special probably has the biggest nose I've ever seen in a cartoon, which isn't necessary to say in regards to the plot, but like, look at that thing. Anyways, moving forward, the ceremony begins with a retelling of how the Animaniacs were created. One of the animators came up with a boring cartoon, one that went by the name Buddy. So he was ordered to make something funnier for their deal that was to occur the next morning. But the animator had already been working all day and night and would have to stay up for yet another night to get his work done in time. So he did. But in the process, he ended up going completely insane. He drew the Animaniacs while in a psychosis-like state. He then fled his office and has been in a psych ward ever since, as he went absolutely bonkers.
Later I found out he went all funny in the head. But I hear he's getting better.
And just like that, the Animaniacs were born. They were featured alongside the old cartoon that they used to run, occasionally whacking him with their hands. They did this until they got signed on as their own show, taking over his old spotlight. The show proceeds with everyone taking turns talking about their own personal experiences with the Warners, including Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and many other iconic cartoons. Some of them love them, some of them praise their comedy, and some of them wish they were never created.
It was an okay cartoon for a short, but this thing went on for 8 hours. 8 hours!
The anniversary cuts to a commercial, and while nobody is there, we find that someone is trying to sabotage the show. They've placed a bomb on the podium in hopes that when the Warners go up for their award, they get blown up. Towards the end of the ceremony, the siblings are asked to say a few words. They start thanking everyone that they feel helped them along the way, with the most important person being Buddy, the cartoon that started their entire career. But it's revealed that the person trying to blow them up is Buddy himself. He's jealous of all their recognition and the fact that they took his cartoon spot, causing him to have to do other things that he didn't love to do for the rest of his life. When they start to thank him, he seems to completely forget about his master plans and he goes up to the podium to take their thanks. Unfortunately for him, the bomb goes off at that exact time, ending the episode with a bang, some might say. Season 2 starts and ends fairly abruptly, with only 4 episodes total in the whole series. Most of the episodes are filler. The episode we'll be going over is called I'm Mad, Katie, Kaboom, the Blemish. It begins with Dr. Scratch and Sniff waking up the 3 Animaniacs and take them to the local fair. This is interesting because we're able to see details about the children's home. As it's been portrayed that they live inside the water tower, this gives the impression that they live in semi-bad conditions. But when Doctor enters their home to wake them up, we see many different interesting details about their home. They've got train tracks, a bathroom, and cozy bunk beds. While it takes them a while to get the 3 up and moving, they end up leaving in time to still have fun with their day. In the next segment of the episode, we are launched back to Katie Kaboom's POV. Gosh, I feel bad for whoever she plans on dating in this next episode. Lucky for him, he's not present this time, to get obliterated by her outbursts. Katie realizes while talking to her little brother that she has a pimple on her forehead, causing her to blow up even faster than usual.
It's only a small blemish. Nothing to get excited over.
Nothing? You call this nothing?
By the time her date arrives at the house, she's able to cover up said pimples, leaving her family in ruin while she goes and enjoys her evening. Please, Please, Please Get a Life Foundation aired in September of 1995, which is incredibly interesting considering the context of the segment. The Warner Brothers company pokes fun at online hate comments complaining about certain aspects of the show. The episode features a fat, balding man too lazy to get up and make himself a sandwich and having a robotic arm feed him instead, commenting with his hands and his toes about minor details of the show that they got wrong, such as certain closed captioning mistakes, country mistakes in some of Yako's songs, and release date mishaps. Ironically, Warner Brothers probably had no idea that now, in 2025, there would be Reddit threads, snark pages, and hate comment sections dedicated to exactly what they were getting emails about way back in the day.
Is this you? Are you happily engrossed in inconsequential cartoon trivia to the point that your socks can probably stand up by themselves?
To get rid of negative comments in the episode, the patients would be sent to the Please 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 Get a Life Foundation, where they would be subjected to Yako, Wakko, and Dot hitting them or doing other painful pranks on them for them to snap back into reality. I.e., get off the internet for a while, because if you're upset about these minor things, then maybe you shouldn't be this engrossed in a cartoon. This next episode in Season 3 explores the Animaniacs' ability to be independent when it comes to the scripts they are offered. Gimme the Works begins with the siblings approaching a hot dog stand guy who's acting rude to the 3, which, as we've seen, happens in most of their episodes, and Dot is not feeling it. Like, no effort. But instead of getting frustrated with her, Yako and Wakko ask if she'd like to just skip out on the cartoon, to which she confesses that she would like to just leave. The show then breaks the 4th wall, with the 3 leaving and the hot dog man being left alone in the studio.
This cartoon is my big break! Hey! Shish! Stars!
Later on in the episode, Dot does it again after not vibing with Hercules' breath. The brothers take her away again, completely fine with her not liking the script or the casting. The episode ends with Dot eventually being fine with the Hercules script, deciding that when he's supposed to kiss her, she'll just wear a gas mask to protect herself from the smell, which I get. But also, imagine going to kiss someone and they're wearing a gas mask. That's crazy. Dot plays the princess in this next episode, Cutie and the Beast. She's cast as Belle from the iconic Disney Beauty and the Beast. What's interesting about this episode is that they cast the Tasmanian Devil as the Beast. The production begins with Dot not doing well with her lines. She keeps messing them up and making her and her brothers restart the shoot. It gets to the point that the entire village that they were filming in starts getting annoyed with how many times they have to redo the movie shoot, which is also breaking the 4th wall. Eventually, the siblings reach the palace and Dot falls instantly in love with the Beast. claiming she likes men who are hard to get. He throws her and her brothers out multiple times, which ends up boring the Warners, who ask him to do his iconic skit instead.
Go away!
Ooh, I love a man who plays hard to get.
Dot eventually kisses the beast, or more like gets eaten by him, and he turns back into a handsome prince. The second that other girls flock to his side because of his new look, Dot gets jealous and decides to kiss him again, successfully turning it back into his beastly self. Season 5 begins with Back in Style, where the Animaniacs' worst fear comes true, work they don't want to participate in. The chairman of Hollywood is having another episode, this time firing all of the cartoons to keep up with the demanding live-action gaze. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig are seen leaving the studio as they appear to have all been fired. The Animaniacs weren't allowed to leave, however, they instead bolted their water tower shut for them to stay contained for the time being.
Calm down, Daff. There's a flavored drink commercial with us written all over it in Hollywood. Wait up, Tex!
While the chairman is sure that his new ideas will wow the general public, his plans backfire when he casts the chicken from Katie Kaboom as a real-life boy again. The critics are angry, nobody's watching his movie, and he's losing money rather than gaining. Because of this, the chairman decides to sell the Animaniacs off to other production companies to make some quick changes to continue his live-action projects. They appear in several different segments resembling famous cartoon franchises and techniques. My personal favorite is a spoof of Scooby-Doo. The kids aren't happy with this, and they end up going back to the chairman, ripping up their contract, and putting themselves back into their tower, hoping that nobody will bother them for about 20 years or so.
Zeke, my heart's in my pancreas, man.
Cool it, Bristly.
Little do they know the hiatus that will occur at the end of this series until the next. Our next episode, Cute First, begins with a lazy rendition of Snow White. The queen was mad about how beautiful Snow White was, so she fed her an apple sandwich, but instead of it being poison, she ended up just choking on it. In no time at all, the prince appears in a convertible with 2 dwarf wingmen. Instead of a true love's kiss reviving her, he just performs the Heimlich, which saves her. On their way back to the queen's castle, she falls out of the convertible off a cliff, allowing Snow White and her new prince to inherit her castle and renovate it. Leaving it the same, just taking out the queen's old trophies, showing off her beauty and the need to be number one at everything she does. She thinks she's going to live happily ever after, hearing the queen's mirror tell her she's the cutest of them all.
In the order of fairest, you hold second rank. For there's a new entry, she lives in Burbank.
However, upon finding Dot, he breaks the bad news. Snow White gets so frustrated with this that she kidnaps Dot and throws her in the dungeon. She assumes that once Dot has lived the dungeon life, she will get uglier and she will reign superior once more in terms of her cuteness levels.
And we're zany to the max, so just sit back and relax. Caught!
But Dot was not in the dungeon for long, as her cuteness overpowers all. Dot was easily able to sway her guard into letting her out. She tackles Snow White and begins tormenting her as the Animaniacs do. But Snow White has had enough. She takes Dot to the tallest tower and attempts to throw her off, just in time before her certain death. And the prince walks in, spooking Snow White and causing them all to fall off the tower instead. Dot and Snow White catch themselves and decide to just vote for who they think is cutest. Dot outsmarts Snow though, because once voting begins, Snow White raises both of her hands for herself, successfully causing her to fall from the tower and get eaten by alligators. Dot lives happily ever after with the prince, assuming she'll be the cutest for life. However, right at the end of the episode, the mirror informs Dot that some new cuties just arrived. Before he's able to say the names of the cuties, Dot orders the prince to place the heavy dresser in front of the mirror to shut him up. But he was going to say the Olsen twins. This epic two-parter, Hooray for North Hollywood, begins with the Animaniacs proclaiming that they've finished their big script. They've been working on a side project that they'd like to be turned into a movie. It's an 800-page script, and they're very proud of it. The three drive off to Hollywood, where they hope to talk to the CEO to get the script approved and move forward.
We actually did it. We wrote a script. We've written a show. 800 pages.
However, upon arriving at the office, they're struck in the face with a hellish landscape that rivals the likes of a busy DMV. They take a number slip, number 9,999, while they're serving number 3, and patiently wait their turn. While waiting, they get on the call in the machine where Yako teaches his younger siblings about schmoozing, i.e. how you make good deals in Hollywood. Before long, the three are chosen to be seen by the CEO, but things aren't looking up for them when he explains that the only reason he's agreed to talk with them is because he's bound by contract to talk to the Animaniacs at least once a year. While discouraged, the siblings pitch their idea, thinking that their homegrown schmoozing will work against the CEO of schmoozing.
It's called Hooray for North Hollywood. Now, we don't want to get into a bidding war.
Unless one happens.
They are, of course, incorrect. The kids, with the leadership of Yako, decide to put on their movie by themselves. And to get money for said adventure, they resort to begging on the street. Nobody donates to their cause, so they decide to be more upfront in their efforts. They begin asking people on the street to invest in their movie, and while nobody gives them money, they do get advised to look in the variety tabloids to see who's doing the best in trades. While looking at their options, they notice that the newspaper highlights a party that will be occurring later that evening for New Year's. With hopes in their hearts, the three of them head off on their mission to find a rich person who's in the business of investing. The Animaniacs have entered the Beverly Dreams. Dot makes her way to the stars that she admires. Yako makes himself comfortable with every woman that he finds attractive, and Wakko immediately finds the upscale food and desserts.
I've seen all of your films.
Really? What do you think of them?
I think you should keep making them.
Thanks.
Eventually, one of them is bound to turn out watchable.
The three are having a good time while keeping an eye out for an interested producer, when suddenly they notice the Hollywood CEO. He quickly rounds up the kids and fires them for good from Hollywood, claiming that they'll never make it without him. And nobody with brain cells would ever buy their little script. Just on time, he is proven wrong with the producer eating up their script on a silver platter. Literally. He sells the script to a production company instantly and hires the Animaniacs onto the set to play in their movie. The CEO is dumbfounded and confused, watching the kids go and rethinking his decisions. And things don't get better for him. He becomes depressed, lying in bed watching as the critics shame him for not jumping on such a hard-hitting comedy special.
Of course, Jam-A-Lot crashed on takeoff, which makes Thaddeus Plotz this week's big-time Hollywood loser.
Meanwhile, Dot and the boys revel in all that they've gotten since their big movie came out, with Dot's name being plastered all over the metro station. While enjoying their riches, the kids start contemplating their feelings towards the old CEO. They miss messing with him, as when he'd get frustrated, he was much funnier than other people. The Animaniacs decide that instead of being sad, they should do something about it. With their newfound money, the three decide to invest in stocks, allowing them enough money to buy the entire Hollywood company that they used to work for in order to hire the CEO back.
Let's drink our fill of sarsaparilla.
We're too young for champagne.
Their plan works, but before he takes the position, they make sure to include that they'd only hire him back on if he promises to give them all raises, to which he hesitantly agrees. And here we have the only movie, Wakko's Wish. It begins with the audience being told a tale of a faraway kingdom called Acme Falls that inhabited the nation of Warner stock. The village was portrayed as being happier than happy can be. Everyone had their passion project jobs and respected those in power. All was perfect, except for the mime of the town. I'm not sure what they have against the mime, to be honest. I think they just find him annoying. Anyways, one day the king fell ill and died, causing an uproar over who their next leader should be or if they should be absorbed by the nation surrounding them. While the balance was undefined, the neighboring nation Tiktakia took over Warner stock, which many did not agree with. Tiktakia's leader, Salazar, was done with his money, plummeting both nations into crippling debt. He decreed that they would all need to start making the country profitable or they would all die. He appointed tax collectors in every town in hopes of bringing in more money to the castle. He sent Von Plotz, also the CEO's name, to be the tax collector for Acme Falls. The collector would ask for too much money too often without thought about those who surrounded him. He slowly but surely corrupted Acme Falls to the point of almost being dysfunctional.
Forgive me, Baron Von Plotz, sir, but I've nothing to pay my taxes with. You've taken my livestock, my land, my home, and left me with nothing to eat.
Every person who used to live happily there has been dragged down and belittled with almost no return. Yako, Wakko, and Dot are playing orphans who are now homeless due to their orphanage shutting down because it didn't have enough money to continue running. But Dot slowly began to get more and more anxious as she needed a procedure done. In hopes of replenishing the health of his family, Wakko decides to leave Yako and Dot to go find his fortune, hoping returning with enough money for Dot to be operated on. However, Wakko doesn't return for a long time. Meanwhile, Pinky in the show falls in love with the local horse. Not sure how that's working out for him, but okay. Suddenly, Wakko returns after 1 full year of being gone. He has collected what the show keeps referring to as a hay penny, which is presumed to be an incredibly valued object as everyone in town seems envious and congratulatory for his fortune. He plans on using the money he collected to help with Dot's operation, but the officer patrolling the train carts has another plan.
He's got a hay penny today. He's got a hay penny, hooray!
Being a part of the government, he approaches the tax collector and shares what he's overheard. The tax collector was given orders not to allow anyone in the town to be happy, and if they're successful in paying for Dot, then that would bring too much hope into their lives. Von Plott enters himself into the situation, demanding that Wakko pay a lot of taxes to be collected after he's been gone for a year, inevitably adding to the price of his hay penny. That night, a sad Wakko gets even more emotional after witnessing Yako telling Dot a happy bedtime story before she drifts off to sleep, coughing up a storm. He sadly confides in Yako about how he's feeling, but Yako is still hopeful that they'll find another way to pay for her surgery instead. Wakko, unconvinced, has some alone time with his harp, singing about wishing for a wish on a wishing star. After he's done moping, a real wishing fairy pops up. He explains to Wakko that he's been granted a wish and can wish upon the star with him.
I'm your desire fulfillment facilitator.
Huh?
Well, I used to be called the Good Fairy, but that sounds so old-fashioned.
But when he orders the star to appear, it veers off course and lands several miles away past some mountains. Wakko tries to make the wish without it, but the fairy explains that he has to be physically next to the star for it to work. Wakko recruits his siblings and the three head off on their adventure, but it isn't long until the entire town finds out about their potential fortune. The journey to the star quickly turns into a race, as whoever gets there first is presumed to be able to make their wish. Von Potts gets caught with the sheriff as they were both rushing off to get to the star. Salazar fetches them though, questioning why they were running off to the stars in the first place, as they should be happy they get to live the life that they do, serving him of course. The two of them play innocent and go along with his story. He instructs them not to let anyone touch the star but himself, as he would like to be the one who gets the wish. Eventually, the three Animaniacs make it to the star, but they're stopped by a military-level guarding system equipped with barbed wire, guns, and guards.
All hail the mighty King Salazar!
Sally Bar, all right, I'm starved. You got me bacon bits?
He ties the kids up, and along with them, every person he thinks was a traitor this entire time, including the tax collector. He orders his guards to execute the Animaniacs, but they cleverly come up with an excuse claiming that there are some things he must know about the star before wishing or it won't work. Salazar believes them at first, but quickly concludes that they must be lying. He orders them to be executed again, but Dot's cuteness gets the best of the guards, allowing the three of them to escape. Upon realizing that they escaped, Salazar says something interesting. He says, "Just like their parents, and I should have gotten rid of them when I had the chance," insinuating that the reason they're orphans is that he killed their parents. Salazar sends bombs at the children, and while Yako and Wakko seem unharmed, it's clear that Dot is seriously injured. They make a whole show of it, asking Yako to tell her favorite bedtime story again.
She's dead. And it's your fault, man!
Yako goes along with it, even letting out the waterworks with some sobs here and there. Once Dot is dead, everyone shuns the king for killing such a cute young creature. Meanwhile, Wakko has been sprinting towards the wishing star this entire time. By the time the king notices and sends another bomb his way, it's too late. Dot awakens from her death scene, revealing to their watching audience that she was full of crap the entire time. And the siblings watch in awe as Wakko makes it to his finish line. Wakko ends up wishing for 2 hay pennies instead of the 1 he had previously, making the siblings very wealthy. They get Dot's operation done, and while at the hospital, they have to try to track down their birth certificates. As it turns out, the Animaniacs were the children of the killed king and queen, making them the official rulers of Warner stock. With their newfound knowledge, they happily kick Salazar off the throne and take ownership as co-rulers of the kingdom.
Except for the mime, that is.
I don't know about him, but that sure was my wish.
Our movie ends happily, as everyone got what they wanted in the end. Even Pinky, who was able to be the stable rat so he could stay next to the horse he was in love with. Okay, weirdo. Animaniacs took a 22-year hiatus from production, with Season 5 of the first version being completed in 1998 and the first season of version 2 being produced in 2020. Our introduction to the series is 2 excited fans finding the Animaniacs in the wild, with the creator explaining that he has decided to go back in and reanimate the iconic trio.
Clean vectored outlines, widescreen format.
These don't look like reruns.
A man dressed in green and wearing a Hulu hat is also seen, who says, "We're going to make millions." And as promised, the show is primarily streamed on the Hulu platform. After their brief introduction, we jump right back into the chaos that is Animaniacs with our first episode, Suspended Animation Part 1. The Animaniacs are back in Hollywood and are ready to wreak havoc once again. They immediately go to see what's going down in their tower, but for some reason, their water tower has been sealed shut. The 3 ram it open to find red lasers throughout, insinuating that a booby trap has been placed. Wakko goes through the lasers in hopes of retrieving his sandwich that, mind you, has been sitting there for 22 years. He goes in for a big bite, but in the process, a chunk of the sandwich drops and sets off the lasers. The booby trap is revealed to be a weighted net that engulfs the chair in the middle of the room. The Animaniacs are slightly confused as to the motive of the trap, but also just as bewildered at the stupidity of the person who set it, as it's so obvious what would have happened. The Animaniacs then make their rounds with Ralph, the security chief, as their first target. He gets outsmarted yet again and ends up in his trap.
And something that really captures the intricacies of your character for old and new fans alike.
The Animaniacs take him to the CEO, and Dot is shocked to find a girl in the position instead of the usual man. She asks the CEO if she could teach Dot her way, to which she rudely declines. Yako, not knowing what a tablet is, assumes it's the kind you swallow when you get sick. So he grabs a big jug of water and chugs the tablet down, successfully gaining all of human knowledge in the past 20 years. When he's done absorbing the information, he along with Wakko and Dot present a song brought to you by Infinite Human Knowledge. Inside said song, the three highlight some major worldly issues that have occurred in the past 20 years while they've been gone. Some of which include global warming, the stock market, presidential debates, and the glass ceiling breaking.
We get internet deals on our hyphenate meals like cage-free vegan paleo sausage. We don't leave our homes thanks to Amazon drones. They track what we do through our watches.
The segment then switches to Pinky and the Brain. In the past 20 years, the two of them have been doing some separate things, with Pinky going to cognitive behavioral psychotherapy and the Brain doing brain things. He's taking credit for the invention of the internet, along with cell phones, and he plans on using memes as a way to brainwash the rest of the world. He assumes that if he dresses up as a cute anime character, all of the humans will fall in love with him and do whatever he wants. And you know what? It begins to work, so much in fact that they want to add him to Mount Rushmore. However, his plans fall short when the mind control filter he placed on all of his photos automatically goes onto other people's photos as well. It takes less than a day for the Brain's popularity to wear off and for him to get kicked out of his new studio and back into the dumpster. Back with the Animaniacs, yet again, they continue on their return with Suspended Animation Part 2. They begin to go into a musical number, ironically singing of how Hollywood has run out of ideas, so they just keep coming out with remakes of old classics.
That's so Ravens what they're craving.
I know that's a show worth saving.
I vote X-Files for a comeback.
Your company's still a real snack.
Which is funny because, well, that's what they're doing in this story with the Animaniacs. Both of these songs, Reboot It and the one sung previously about the world changing in a bad way, have an ominously real tone to them. Like, the Animaniacs know that things have gone bad, but they're here anyway. The second segment ends with Yako and Wakko stating that while they do perceive these other reboots as sellouts, they understand what they're doing and know that they're just doing it for the money, so it's cool. Mind you, they said all of this while wearing Hulu merch, and a huge Hulu check and banners are present at the same time. Our next episode, Good Warner Hunting, begins with the Warners incredibly bored already with their new show. They're confused as to why they feel like they're the ones doing all of the heavy lifting when suddenly they realize that all of the other cartoons that would play in their old shows are nowhere to be found. The episode then cuts to the Big Bad Hunter, a mysterious man with questionable facial hair, gazing lovingly at the head plates he plans to put the Animaniacs' decapitated heads on. While talking to himself, we learn that during the 20 years since their last arrival, the Hunter has been on a spree, capturing every single animated friend from the Animaniacs universe until he completes his collection. He heads off to Hollywood after hearing of their return, but he makes it much too obvious what he came there to do. Wakko immediately spots him sneaking up on them in his little boots, and Dot is not too far behind him, already coming up with puns about his little feet.
Wedding ring? You must have a great personality.
Or he's rich.
Maybe it's a green card marriage.
Frustrated, the Hunter attempts to catch them, and the three thoroughly outwit him with their continuous attempts. Eventually, the Hunter decides to use a new tactic. He politely knocks on the Animaniacs' water tower door and confesses that he's going to retire from hunting. Dot and Wakko are convinced, and make fun of him publicly, that he's quitting because he's not good at it anymore. The Hunter gets frustrated by their teasing but inevitably sticks to his guns. He explains that he's come up with a new and healthy policy. Instead of capturing the animations that he wants, he'll just take photos of them. After hearing him out, the siblings agree to pose for a photo, but once the camera clicks, a weighted net comes out and snatches them up. Quickly, before anyone notices, the Hunter rounds them up on his golf cart and whisks away back to his creepy mansion. Once there, he explains to the Warner siblings of his plans to get rid of them and that so far he's collected every single character from the original animation. This is when Yako and Dot get to thinking. Chicken Boo is not present on one of these plaques. Chicken Boo was so unpopular in the first show that they didn't even have plans to put him in the second one. While antagonizing the Hunter, he shows his true colors, or should I say feathers. He grossly turns back into his normal self, Chicken Boo.
So, you hunted down every character from the original cast of Animaniacs one by one just because you were left out of the reboot?
The episode ends with the rest of the characters from the first series chasing him off into the sunset. The Brain makes incredible progress in this next episode, Close Encounters of the Worst Kind. The Brain, as we know, has been trying to take over Earth for about 30 years now. He's dedicated all of his time, effort, sweat, and tears. Because his efforts alone have been futile, he's decided to incorporate some extra help from extraterrestrial beings. The Brain decides to send out a message into space asking any alien race if they'd like to help the Brain take over the world.
Join me, and together we'll...
I wanna dance!
And to his luck, he gets a response. Two aliens land on Earth, and they aren't at all what Brain thought they would be. The alien in charge, Gabriella, is super sweet and caring. She gets excited when she sees a puppy. She wants to go eat hot dogs at the mall, and she rocks at karaoke. When the Brain confronts her about when they will finally take over the Earth, Gabriella doesn't seem to have any clue about what he's talking about. She questions his morality on why he would want to destroy such a plentiful planet.
There's a ketchup!
Frustrated, Brain leaves and takes Pinky with him. He decides that if Gabriella won't help him, then he might as well use the UFO she brought to Earth to do it himself. He attempts to fly the ship, but ends up crashing it exactly where it was already parked. Suddenly, a bunch of scientists and news reporters show up, extracting Pinky and the Brain from the wreckage and examining as they believe the two to be from another planet.
I wanna dance. I wanna dance.
Shut the front door!
The episode ends with the two rats seeing Gabriella compete in a national singing competition, seemingly mimicking America's Got Talent. The Brain and Pinky are getting up to no good yet again in this next episode, Future Brain. The two have been invited to an award show, and to make sure they win, the Brain has instructed Pinky to go backstage and switch out the envelopes just to be sure. But before the two can commit to their plans, the Brain is stopped by himself? An older-looking, cooler-looking version of himself pops up with a large scar running down his face and a robotic eye. The strange mouse claims to be Future Brain, and he is. He tries to get through to Brain about why his ideas always fail, and all signs point to Pinky. At every turn, Pinky is there to mess something up, whether that be a silly mistake or purposely chewing up the Brain's wires because they quote-unquote taste like the tinfoil sandwiches his mother used to make him as a baby.
Gad, it sure is strange to see two brains at once. It's like looking in a mirror, but not really because I don't see my own reflection.
The Brain ponders what his future self is telling him, but at the end of the day, he loves Pinky deep down and doesn't want to get rid of him. Frustrated with the delays, Brain and Pinky go back to the award show to continue their plan. Pinky gets to switch the envelopes, so their master plan should theoretically work. However, when the host begins reading off the envelope, she reads a recipe for Pinky's cheesecake instead of announcing Brain as the winner. Future Brain uses this as a final straw moment and insists that he should shoot Pinky as he has foiled his plans yet again. The Brain is still not sure of his feelings towards his friend and refuses to let anything happen to him. In the chaos, Pinky picks up Future Brain's laser gun and threatens to shoot them if they don't stop arguing. However, he can't tell the difference between the two brains, even though one of them looks completely different from the other, and he chooses to begin shooting at the ceiling instead. He opens a bunch of portals, and one finally works, sucking Future Brain into it to never be seen again. It teleported him to the time of the dinosaurs. He found a dumb walking fish and decided to name them Blinky. Old habits die hard, I guess. Anyways, back with his best friend, Brain confesses that he'd rather have blind support than a smart individual who always argues with him. In our next episode, Animaniacs, the Animaniacs are facing some fierce competition. Not really. They're watching TV when suddenly they stumble upon Russian channels. They flip through, trying to figure out exactly what they've encountered when suddenly they notice a strange channel with humans dressed up with their features. The boys are incredibly distraught by this, but Dot is seemingly unfazed. That is, until she sees her Russian counterpart, a huge Russian man, way bulkier than her brothers with a deep voice pretending to be Dot. The Warners begin complaining about the show when suddenly the characters in the show start responding to the Warners in real time, even blessing them when they sneeze. Yako freaks out and throws his remote at the TV, revealing cameras that have the label Property of Russia on them. While panicky pondering the situation, the Animaniacs are greeted by an intern named Vladimir, holding cups with the communist flag on them, who speaks in a Russian accent. Do you get the picture? Because the Warners somehow don't. The intern hammers wood onto their TV, claiming that he's fixed it, and then proceeds to run off to a suspicious-looking intern room where a bunch of other Russians reside.
Hey, this is America! Only the NSA is allowed to do that!
The Warners only become suspicious when they realize that the new intern didn't take their coffee order and that there's nobody at the studio to be interning for, as all of the writers are there overnight and leave before noon. To figure out what's going on, the Animaniacs ship themselves off to Russia. Once there, they take a tour of their version of the Warner Studios, which is incredibly scary and dingy looking, with questionable looking stew and a lot of Russian stereotypes.
We have most popular cooking show, Master Beat Chef. I like extensive use of feet.
Once they reach the animation studio, they quickly begin to attempt to shut it down. Eventually, they end up singing, which Putin himself dislikes. He sends army tanks to blow up the studio wall and demands to know who caused such a horrendous sound. The Warners quickly blame the Russian producer, landing him in jail. The three then quickly leave Russia before further trouble occurs. To explain their quick departure, they state that a plane flies from Moscow to the United States every day. Given the time that the show was created, it would be a joke about Trump and Russia's alliance in 2020 before the presidential election occurred. A familiar face is found in our next episode, Hindenburg Cola. While being chased by Ralph the security guard, the Warners stumble upon Scratch and Sniff's office. They're excited to see a familiar face as they know they haven't seen him in all of Season 1 of their reboot. Upon entering his office, they find that he looks deathly ill. Like purple with spots to the point of not being able to move very much and a monitoring machine hooked up to him. The Warners wonder what could help him get through this sickness, and he claims that the only thing that could make him feel better is the fabled Hindenburg Cola, which is a special soda from Germany.
I want a can of Hindenburg Cola.
Say what now, Gas and Sniff?
Hindenburg Cola.
Scratch and Sniff explains that theirs is the only shop in all of the world that sells the soda, a mom-and-pop shop super far away from their current location. Determined to help their friend, the Warners head off on their epic journey. The siblings eventually find it, but they must battle a big, burly blonde German guy for it for several minutes. The montage lasts so long that even Yako yells at the producer to move it along. They win against the man and bring the soda back to Dr. Scratch and Sniff. Upon grabbing the cola, he jumps up from his bed and wipes off his purple makeup. He hasn't been sick this entire time, and he's been planning this prank since 1998, pretending to be sick for the Warners to get worried enough about him that he could send them off on a long journey and prank them for once. But the effort of his prank greatly outweighs the reward, as upon drinking from the cola, his head gets so big that it takes the shape of a blimp and whisks him away when he begins to sneeze.
And not just be the butt of your elaborate slapstick gag. Ooh, the teensy weensy boobles.
He ends up blaming the little bubbles in the can for this grave mistake. Our next episode highlights Pinky and the Brain, or rather what they would and were before their final forms in the flawed couple. The new CEO is taking over their slot in this episode as the couple hasn't been seen in months. She explains that to fill their spot on air, she's going to be regurgitating content that they've never used and that has never seen the light of day before today. The pilot's for Pinky and the Brain. In other words of the CEO, buckle up, baby birds, because this mama's about to be freed. Their first pilot featured Brain as an abusive house husband and Pinky as the submissive housewife. And while the show gave everything a 1950s audience would have loved, the Brain didn't like the scripts. He saw them as too dumb and just couldn't get into character, which is why the show ended up being cancelled.
Ahem, spoiler alert!
Warner Brothers. The duo's next acting opportunities took the form of a large family TV show, kind of like Full House, but they had the Brain and Pinky play all of the characters, which the Brain didn't like. That show ended up not working because the Brain yelled at the writer the first day on set about how horrible the storyline was. After that, the duo tried getting more with the times, and were featured in a comedy resembling Friends, where the Brain walked into a restaurant and was greeted by everyone who was there. He thought it was so stupid that it took Warner Studios 8 years to calm him down to do yet another pilot.
How does everyone in here know my name?
This is a place where everybody knows your name. Didn't you listen to the theme song?
It didn't mention that in the theme song.
This time as a spoof of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but Pinky gets to play Will Smith, which doesn't sit right with the Brain as he is cast as a more irrelevant part of the show, with people he doesn't think deserve recognition. At the end of his last pilot on the show, he proclaims, "I will rule the world," which launches his iconic Pinky and the Brain segment from here on out.
There's more to life than being told what to say and do all the time, Pinky. Now come with me.
The CEO cuts back into frame and begins complaining about the duo being missing yet again. Pinky and the Brain are then shown to be hiding in their cages, with the Brain explaining his master plan. He has made a cloning device so that they can focus on world domination while their counterparts focus on acting. But when the clones are shown, they look a bit silly. While the Brain isn't looking, Pinky hits the clone button again, and again, and again until the machine catches on fire and blows up, successfully ending the episode and the Brain's evil plan. Continuing on with our Pinky and the Brain theme we got going on here, we have Mouse Congeniality. The Brain's master plan in this episode is to infiltrate Chump Tower, seemingly a writer's choice making fun of Trump Tower, which was a topic of conversation around the time of this episode's release date. Anyways, in the show, all of the world leaders gather once a year in Chump Tower for a ceremony. The Brain wants to take his mind control mist, that looks a lot like Pinky's perfume, and spray it on the world leaders so that he can persuade them to hand over their nations willingly in exchange.
Even so, it should be enough to render approximately 1,000 humans entirely suggestible to my command for 5 minutes.
The two head to the tower, but come across complications when they realize they're not permitted to be there. That is until the Brain realizes that there's a pageant going on downstairs in the tower at the same time as the conference. The brain uses his quick thinking to enter Pinky into the pageant. That way, while he's performing, the brain can find a way up to the conference room for his evil plan to unfold. Pinky does well enough to buy them time for the brain to hold up his part of the plan and make his way to the conference. Once there, he attempts to use his spray on the world leaders, but it doesn't seem to be working. The brain smells something nice in the air, and it smells just like Pinky's perfume.
I command thee to forfeit your nations to I, the brain!
The brain had accidentally switched the vials when they were having a conversation about it earlier in the episode, which means that Pinky has the mind control one instead. The brain heads back down to the pageant, defeated that his master plan didn't work because of himself this time. When he finds Pinky, he seems more happy as the mind control vial allowed him to win the pageant. Our last episode in the Pinky and the Brain special is The Prisoner's Dilemma, where there are multiple Pinkies in the Brain episodes that are important all at once. Pinky and the Brain are captured by another villain who calls himself the Doppler, which I'm assuming is short for doppelganger, since he has a secret villain retreat where all of his henchmen look like each other and wear mime outfits. The Brain and Pinky are confused as to why he brought them here, but the Brain is flattered when the Doppler calls him a supervillain, emphasis on super. Wow, I've never seen the Brain blush before. Do I sense a bromance?
Fine weather we're having.
Fine weather we're having.
Fine weather we're having.
Fine weather we're having.
The Brain gets a little nervous when the Doppler presumes that he, too, has a hideaway secret island with henchmen, and he ends up lying and agreeing that he does. Pinky is quick to point out that he's lying, which the Brain is not happy about, as it embarrasses him in front of his new friend. However, the Brain's opinions change drastically regarding Doppler when he's told that the reason he was brought to his retreat was so that when Doppler's master plan unfolded, he could risk his life climbing up and pressing a button that would save his retreat from Doppler's plans of mass destruction. Everyone else here who was a human that was brought here has cool tasks instead, which greatly annoys the Brain. In hopes of foiling the plans, he attempts to take the other members out one by one. But when he reaches the people that he wants to mess with, they've already been taken out by unfortunate circumstances. The Brain assures that it's been another one of the villains staying there. But when the Doppler confronts him, it becomes clear that it was Pinky all along. The Doppler is so impressed with Pinky that he decides to take him and make him his new apprentice, successfully taking him away from the Brain.
I can't believe you haven't eaten all day. Oh my!
However, at their romantic seaside dinner, Pinky accidentally shoots the Doppler in the forehead with a champagne cork, which gets rid of him by knocking him into the ocean. Our next episode of Season 2 explores two interesting concepts, Warner's Ark and the Apology. The first being Noah's Ark. How did they incorporate Noah's Ark, you may ask? Well, just like they've incorporated everything else in this show, with pizzazz and camp. Noah just left the dock, slamming the door shut on the fun animals that roam the earth, aka the mystical creatures such as the Hydra, Cerberus, unicorns, etc. The Warners task themselves with saving them as well. But before they sail off, they notice a strange egg in the distance. A bright purple one to be exact.
You guys need a ride?
After retrieving the egg, they begin to ask the other creatures if the egg belongs to any of them. For some reason, the creatures begin fighting over the egg, causing mayhem and destruction. So much destruction that the boat collapses. The only ones that are shown to survive are the Warner siblings and the egg. Tired after their long day, the three attempt to eat the egg, but it begins to hatch into Chicken Boo. So that explains why he's such a freak of nature.
I guess I wasn't ready to be a mother. I should have spent some more time focused on my career.
Or steering a boat.
Potato, potato.
Moving forward from that, our next segment, The Apology, pays homage to all the celebrity apologies that were going around in 2020, when Gen Z decided they weren't going to put up with crappy behavior even if people are celebrities. Every influencer and their mother was apologizing for things they've done years ago, seemingly completely changed by their public shunning. The Warner siblings attempt to make their apology video, but halfway through, they realize they have no idea what they're apologizing for. They then realize they don't regret anything they've ever done and they're not afraid to say it. They finish the segment by saying, "I'm glad being famous hasn't changed us. We've always been terrible." The last episode in Season 2 ends with segment 23 and WB. It begins with the Warners getting their DNA results that they've been trying to figure out what animal they are. And while the results don't show them exactly what they are, it does show them who they're related to. Norah is the CEO of Season 2. They approach Norah about it, but she refuses to believe them. While they're messing around in her office, they find that she's been invited to her annual family reunion. Assuming now that they are related, the three beg her to go, but she denies them. Thankfully, Yako steals her invitation while she's distracted, so they still show up anyway.
Mom, can we go now? My friends and I have plans to sit in a parking lot and look at our phones.
Once there, we learn that Flora, Nora's grandmother and also owner of the parent company of Warner's, is holding a competition. The prize? Her money. This is when the Warners enter the picture. Flora doesn't believe them at first, but after looking at their DNA tests that claim them as her great-great-grandcousins once bitten, twice removed on her brother's side, she lets them enter because of their proof, much to the annoyance of Norah and the rest of the family who have never seen the Animaniacs before. The Warners are in the lead for the prize money for the entire episode, and when they're awarded all Flora's fortune, they get suddenly interrupted by one of the mix-up team members from Company 23 and WB. The Warner siblings' results were mixed up with Ralph, the security guard. Flora is amazed at the spitting image of her brother that she sees in Ralph, and immediately awards everything to him, revoking it from the Warners.
But I see by these broken frames I may be too late.
How do you know all this?
I work for a genetic testing service. I know everything that was, everything that is, and everything that will be.
The episode ends with the Warners confused as to how Ralph will be running the Warner Studios from now on, but inevitably decide that that'll be an issue for Season 3. Season 3 begins right where we left off. Ralph is now in charge of the company while Norah is out of a job. She ends up applying for Ralph's old job as the security guard, which completely ruins the Warners' vibe. She takes her job super seriously. I mean, super seriously. After capturing the Warners multiple times, they come up with a deal with her. If they help her get her old job back, then she makes sure the Warner Studios goes back the way it once was. Norah agrees and they get to scheming. The group decides that to get Nora's job back, they need Flora to see Ralph's true colors. They end up making it apparent that Ralph isn't cut out for the job, even making him ruin a premiere of a show due to his inability to control himself around meatball subs.
Says sandwich.
Norah rescues Flora from a heavy catastrophe, i.e. Ralph falling on top of her and squishing her to death. Flora recognizes Nora's bravery and gives her the CEO job back. Once she's back in power, she gives Ralph his security job back as she doesn't want poor Ralph to be completely out of a job. The Animaniacs are so excited to be able to call the Warner area their home once more. As we all know, Dot has never faced much competition in her whole life. She has two supportive big brothers, and let's face it, female characters didn't hit the spotlight until Disney princesses stopped wearing dresses all of the time. However, she has competition in this next episode, Soda Pressed. While on the Warners' set, the siblings notice that there's a lot more activity going on than usual when they find out that there seems to be an award show going on. The whole crowd is little girls, and they're all screaming to find out who the most influential girl is. Dot begins to walk up to the stage, but she's outshone when she finds that the person they were all cheering for was Gigi Soda? Whoever that is. Dot is so upset that she attempts to rip away the award from her while on stage in front of the whole audience. She fails and settles for the next best thing, stealing it from her house. Upon entering the Warners, notice that Gigi is less than soda popalicious. She's a regular girl who looks like she's in her late 40s, wondering where her life got away and pondering if she should have coffee or just end it all. So no overreacting then. Upon questioning, she explains to them that she has no time to argue or fight about the award as she has a super busy schedule. The siblings see her overloaded calendar and decide that's no way a child should be raised. The three of them take Gigi away and attempt to make her have some childhood fun, and she does.
Be a kid, just relax. Have a catch, play some jacks. Eat some dirt, skip a rock. Draw cool shapes with sidewalk chalk.
Dot decides to give her the award back as they are now friends, but once Gigi finds out that Dot took it in the first place, she's not happy. The segment ends with Gigi leaping off the Warner Tower after the siblings seemingly catch them and reap her revenge. Our last episode, Aliens Resurrected Everyday Safety Giant Adirondack Chair, begins with a Wakko-sized crash out. Yako and Dot wake up to a totally freaked out Wakko who seems to not have slept in days. His eyes are red and he's got string all over the room, looking like an underpaid and overqualified FBI agent on the hunt for solving a case.
Have you slept?
Tuesday.
It's Friday.
Yako and Dot are confused as to Wakko's issues, but upon questioning him, they remember why he's troubled. A few days ago, some aliens crashed into their water tower and they greeted them and sang them a song. Wakko is convinced that they're in grave danger, saying that one of the last things the aliens said to them was that they'd turn them all into nutrient paste. At first, Yako and Dot are unfazed by this, but then the invasion begins, with all of the humans apart from the Hollywood studios being swept up by a suspicious-looking green substance. After capturing the Animaniacs, they begin questioning their alien friends as to why they're taking over the human race and destroying the planet. Their alien friends explain that because of the song that they sang to them, they have decided that the human race is quite disgusting indeed, not worthy of surviving.
About this whole end of the world thing you're planning, any chance you could, not?
Because of this information, the siblings beg Yako to sing them another song. This one explaining good things about the human race. They succeed, but only slightly, as the aliens promise that if the humans don't stop doing bad stuff, then they will be more ruthless with their execution next time. The last segment of the show highlights just what happens when humans don't stop doing the bad things. The Animaniacs siblings reflect on this being their last episode. Wakko starts yelling about how they're all going to die. Yako and Dad try to calm him down until they turn and notice a huge meteor heading straight for them. Panicked, the three start trying to figure out what their last lines for the show are going to be.
Next time? We don't even know if there's gonna be a next time because our show hasn't been renewed for more seasons yet.
But why? I thought people liked us.
We're all about to die!
But before they can get any out, the meteor hits and the show closes for the last time. And with that climactic ending, we finish Animaniacs. Which of the many Animaniac characters is your favorite? Drop a comment down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.